Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creating Tailwinds Podcast by FlightPath Financial with your hosts, John Urbick and Jared Adams. Join us today as we discuss the power of infinite banking. And here we go.
Well, hello, John. Greetings. Welcome again, sir.
Oh, Jared, how are you today?
Fantastic. Hope you're having a good day.
I couldn't have had a better day. Thank you.
That's awesome. You guys got to spend some time today with the missus?
We did. Actually, we went into up into Atlanta. I went and I bought a very nice suit. I don't do that very often, but
Nice.
for Veronica's wedding, went out and popped for a suit, and it'll be ready in a little while after they tailor it. So that was
awesome.
our afternoon.
How's the planning coming for the wedding? I hear that if you just tell anybody you're having a party, no problem, cheap costs. But as soon as you say the word wedding, through the roof, at 100% markup.
Isn't that the truth? And I think you've just done several people out there listening a giant favor. Listen to what Jared just told you. Do not tell them it's for a wedding. Otherwise, crack out your checkbook.
But that planning's coming good. How far ahead is it? How much more time?
It's not till November 1st.
Okay.
So,
plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time. Just getting ahead of the curve a little bit, that's all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I know we kind of left off with a teaser last time. So in true to form, I think we should pick up right there if that's okay with you.
Sure, there's always plenty to talk about with qualified plans, the 401k, and all the related products that find their way into that asset class or group. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
the teaser that we kind of left off with last time was once you do get IBC, once you've caught it, right? Because we've always said it's something that's caught, not taught. Once you've caught it, some of the questions that I've had recently from a couple of clients was, why aren't more people doing this? They're like, I don't get it. This makes so much sense to me. There's all the protections, all the guarantees, the return that you receive, internal, external, eternal, all of these items. I don't understand why more folks aren't doing this. So, in true form, to stick to our little teaser, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think the answer is?
Well, I've always told you I follow the money. I think that answers so many questions in life, answers so many questions in economics. And you've got to look at the economic motivation out there. There's literally hundreds of millions of dollars that are spent every year. Maybe it's 100. Yeah, probably is in marketing costs from these massive banks and the giant fiduciaries of the world who take people's money and invest it, as they say, for them. And really, their objectives are to make as much money as they can for their companies, not for the individual investors. They've just got to provide a product that somebody will go to and say, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And most people are not sophisticated enough to sift through all of the different choices, asset classes, and understand what's really happening behind the scenes. And those that are sophisticated, oftentimes it's a paradigm that we are all following because it's what's been given to us. The 401k, where are you going to put your money? Your accountant says, hey, you can save 35% this year on X number of dollars if you just throw it into a qualified plan. Okay, great, I'll do it. I'll put it into a 401k. I'll put it into a 403b. I'll put it into my HSA, the health savings account, because I'm going to save money. The big question is, are you? That's right. I think we can make a very, very strong case that you're really not. It's really not the great, panacea that people think it is.
You were talking about, following the money and taking a step back on that. I'm going through How Privatized Banking Really Works, a book by Carlos Lara and Robert Murphy, really peeling back some of the banking, I guess, secrets is a better way to say it. And when you follow some of the money, I mean, I really enjoyed the story that he told about going all the way back to ancient Roman times in terms of when Caesar would clip the coins, basically, taking a little bit off the coins to then create more coins so that he could cover the various expenses that the government always outspent, and there was never a time when the government lived within their means in terms of a budget. So he would clip those coins, and so what happens now? The guy down at the fish market who's selling a fish for a single coin, he puts the coin in his pocket after he's handed you the fish, and then as he's going back through it, he looks and he goes, "What the heck? That one looks different than the other ones. That's not the same coin that it was." Clearly understanding that it was, some portion was taken away from it. And so what happens the next time the guy shows up there to buy a fish? He'll get a fish, but it's going to cost him 2 coins.
Right.
And it's
right.
like just this easy scenario of what it looks like for an inflationary environment to occur. You have to have a Federal Reserve system that's just printing money. And so when you have that, you're automatically increasing the supply of the dollars that are out there and therefore decreasing the value. And then you also have this fractional reserve banking system of which you only have to hold 10% on for the actual deposits. And now you've just made up money out of thin air. So when you say follow the money, you could not be more spot on. In both of these cases, who benefits? The government gets their first pick at the bonds that they're selling in order to, spend all the money that they need to cover the programs that they've promised. And then the bankers are making a boatload of money off of our money sitting in some deposit account. So, those follow the money chains alone. You could spend, 4 or 5 podcasts just talking about those topics, but, just kind of putting them into a more condensable version of that.
And it's not even 10% anymore, Jared. They've all but lifted that. They can go to practically zero in reserves. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I saw that.
And people running what they're doing, if you're looking how successful these qualified plans have been, they have not been that successful. Just look at, without going into the numbers, we covered a lot of this last podcast, but they're not hitting the numbers that they need to hit. I mean, the median income America out there, they might have 50, 60, 70 grand in a 401k. That's going to augment their retirement when they're going to spend, some people are going to spend as many years out of, in retirement as they did in their working years. Right. There is no way that is going to work. This paradigm will crash and burn. And so, I went in and I looked at how much money is being extracted out of these systems. Something as simple as, and we talked offline about the HSA, health savings account, right? Yep. If you're going to use it in that year and you're in the 30% tax bracket or whatever tax bracket, I guess it makes sense to cycle the money through there. But I can't tell you how many people are saying, look, this stuff's tax free. I'm going to dump as much money as I can into this thing that the law will allow, and I'm just going to roll it year to year to year. And I'll keep it there for 20 years. So they got a depreciating asset to begin with. What can people do? Yep. And the clear answer when you look at this stuff is set up an infinite banking contract. Yep. Pay the taxes now. Yeah, it stinks. Get them out of your face. Throw it into these contracts, and you're up and running. Now, when you go to buy a car, I just financed and flipped one real quickly here at 9.1% was the interest rate. Well, I just moved that real quickly over to my IBC contract at 5%. So I'm saving 4% on a contract where I'm paying back to a company that I own, so I'm getting dividend income on that. It is a beautiful structure. Yeah.
You were talking about the HSA and the 401k and the various products that are, within Wall Street and with these outside entities. And that's, something that we haven't really talked about a lot. And it's the common sense involved with, we say life insurance. And I think this actually kind of gets back to one of the answers to our initial question. Why don't more people do this? When you say whole life insurance, I think given, a generation behind us and, anybody that's been around for 40 or 50 years, they automatically just have their stomach churn when they hear that word, because there was a lot of bad press in the late 70s, early 80s about this product. And it probably wasn't that great at the time, but, a lot of things have changed over the course of 40, 50 years. And for someone to just go, oh, never do that, that's a horrible idea, without at least, giving it its due cause, I think that even goes back to answer some of that original question. But it brings me back to what you're saying here with the HSA and the various accounts, to say that a life insurance contract is an agreement between like-minded parties. You are not in an agreement with a like-minded party when you give money to your mutual fund, when you give money to your HSA. You are in an agreement that is structured for their gain. Now, they're going to let you have some of the nuggets off the top, but it's structured for their gain. And when you put money into a bank account and they can then loan it out and, cause inflation in itself. This is not set up for your gain. It's set up for theirs. So there's also a small kind of, double answer that sits there between why aren't folks doing this and I follow the money in terms of where this all goes.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know, did I say that right? Would you agree with that?
No, you are right. And I was trying to find something here. There's a piece by Ryan Griggs. He's an IBC practitioner, great guy.
Yep.
He's an economist by training.
Super smart guy.
Yeah, smart guy. And so he wrote in this thing. I'll just read it because I think it's pretty good the way he says it. This is what IBC is. It's the best way to build and deploy capital. And those who fail to build and deploy capital under their own control will be dependent on those who do. The reverse implication of Nelson's golden rule, and that golden rule is he who makes the gold or holds the gold makes the rules.
That's right.
Infinite banking is for people who refuse to be financially dependent.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how much I agree with that statement Ryan made.
Yeah, that's spot on. Yep. Yeah, so that kind of brings us back to the 401k fallacy discussion that we were having previously. Were there any points that were left off on the previous? Any other, stuff that had brought to mind?
There are many, many roads we could go down, and the one thing that we might touch on is the idea of the future value of the collateral is almost always uncertain. And when you're in a qualified plan, you're in a 401k or an IRA, not only do they make the choices for you, you think you're making choices, you're not. All they're doing, if you look at what they hold in these different value funds or dividend funds, or give them a name, it's a lot. Most of it is the same darn stuff. It's same companies.
Sure.
It's just a reallocation of percentages is all it is. But the bottom line is that rate of return, the money that you're planning on retiring with, is uncertain. You have no idea what it's going to be at the end of the road. And an important concept we've never talked about it here, I don't think, is sequence of returns.
Sure.
If you look at the ups and downs of the markets, we should do a podcast on the business cycle. That would be a great one. That's the one.
Oh, yes.
And then I would like to do one on the business cycle, and I'd like to do one on what is money, and then what impacts money.
Yep.
The stuff people think they actually control. Those would be two great topics for us. But back to the sequence of returns, it all depends. So let's say you've done okay with your retirement plan, your 401k, and then you have a downdraft. In this business cycle, it comes, the booms and busts come like clockwork. And when they hit, what if that is the year before you're due to retire? Or what if it is in the year you retire? And now you're going to start pulling money out of this thing, and you're pulling it from a point 30% less than where you started just the year before. So now it's much more impactful on how long that money is going to last. So you're either going to have to take less in an inflationary environment where the money is becoming worth less and less, or you're going to have to augment that with something else. And I think that's the direction that many people who might be listening to this are going to be going into and do not even realize it. Go to Walmart anymore. Go to Home Depot. Go to Lowe's. Who's working those aisles? Those are all retirees. Why are they there? Ask yourself. It's because they don't have enough money. They need more money. It's gone. Their retirement savings plans just aren't keeping up. So the smartest things, I can't emphasize this enough, Jared, the smartest things that we can teach the younger generations is to get into these things early, because it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to them over their careers. It truly is. I'd love to show it to them.
Sure.
You just got to get out there and show them.
I just showed one today where a gentleman, starting in their late 20s, by the time that they were in their early 70s, for every dollar that they gave to their contract, they were expected to generate about 6x for dividends.
Right.
So for every dollar they gave, 6 was being generated. And this was just a regular paying a $1 premium. And that's really not all that fantastic. That was a pretty conservative look. I actually peeled that back a little bit just so that I wasn't making it look like, it was something that it wasn't. And looking at that, some of them I've seen, if you start in your early 20s or a juvenile policy, you're 10x by the time you're in your late 60s. For every dollar you give, you're generating 10. And that's that's just adding to the cash value, which is your, you know, the equity of your death benefit. So that, what the actual death benefit's doing in itself is a whole nother story. Again, this gets complex kind of quick. It's a little easier to show when you can, put some numbers to paper. We'd always love the chance to do that. But when you can see the power of the uninterrupted compound growth, it's pretty amazing to see. And to go back to your original point where you were talking about, you have no idea. I can't guarantee, you can't guarantee. None of us have a crystal ball to know, what the market may be. Are we in a down cycle? Are we in an up cycle? Who knows? Nobody can really get that far in advance on the non-guarantees. Why not lock in something that's a guarantee? You can look on the left side of some of these contracts before you even sign the dotted line. They will tell you exactly what they are guaranteeing you. And that's not a guess. That's not a business cycle up or down. That's a guarantee that's written in paper. So I can't understand why more people don't take advantage of that when you look at it from that light.
Yeah, it's simply, I believe, they don't understand the mechanics of how money works, how the banks calculate their profits, how they protect themselves. Some banks are more conservative than others, and so they're going to charge you additional fees in other places. They're not going to give you as much as a rate of return. They already give you paltry returns. It's because they have to figure out, how are we going to, whatever we're giving this money for, we have to make sure that we're covered. What if it's real estate? Well, gosh, during that last real estate meltdown with the not the savings and loan crisis, the collateralized mortgage obligations, the CMOs,
Yep.
and what happened to real estate? It imploded. And so if you've got somebody out there who's putting 5 or 10 or even 20% down on a property, and then that property rolls and now is worth 40% less of when that bank issued the paper, they're in trouble. They're underwater on that property.
That's
and
right.
so if that person walks away, and many did, they just mailed the keys to the banks. Banks were just toasted. And so they're very, very concerned about getting their money back. Whereas in a whole life contract, if we build somebody an IBC contract, that uncertainty is entirely eliminated.
Yep.
With all other assets, the lender cannot, and I'm going to quote Brian Griggs on this one because it says it here, which I think is pretty good the way he said it. With all other assets, the lender cannot guarantee the future value of the property. With whole life insurance, the lender can. Why? Because the entire asset is contractually enforceable. So I just think people don't understand the power of this stuff, and it's our job to get out there and show them
Sure.
how powerful this really is.
That's right. But the term product is such a common product, right? So when
It is.
you pay for that over the course of 10, 20, 30 years, and then, hopefully at the end of 30 years, you have nothing to show for it. That's usually the goal with term insurance. That's a pretty well-known product, but the whole side of it's not as well known, and it gets muddied real quick with all these IULs and VULs and GVULs and fill in the blank. I mean, we're talking about strict, properly structured, dividend paying, whole life insurance, ideally from a mutually owned company. Like that's it. I mean, it couldn't get any more vanilla than that. So there's a lot of muddied waters out there. I think that's another, reason for the either misinformation or just no information at all when you can put all that piece together.
Well, beginning back, I don't know, when 401ks came into vogue, right? And everyone was going to become a stock market expert. Everyone's watching the charts. Everyone's following the momentum, moving averages. There's 100 different techniques out there. We see them all the time. But what we're doing is not new. Our grandparents, our great grandparents, this was their bread and butter. This is where people save their money. They would buy U.S. savings bonds, and they would buy life and cash value life insurance. And it was their McDonald's. Walt Disney would not exist without cash value life insurance.
Yep.
JCPenny back in the day saved his company with cash value life insurance loans. There's so, and I can't think of, there are many, many examples of it that I can't even get into all those because I can't remember them all. But those three right off the top of my head, massive corporations. And
True.
And they wouldn't have been here without dividend paying whole life insurance that saved the CEO's bacon. And they came in, they said they bought, really, and they couldn't get the money from anywhere else. Walt Disney couldn't get a loan to put on one of his first productions. They wouldn't give him the money. He got it from life insurance. It's tremendous, tremendous success stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there was one other quote that came to mind again from the book that I'm recently going through, and it's a Frederick Bastiat quote.
Yeah.
It says, "There is in all of us a strong disposition to believe that anything lawful is also legitimate." And when you look at that and you kind of unpack that for a bit, and basically the idea is just because a 401k is lawful, it's also legitimate. Or just because fractional reserve banking is also lawful, it's not legitimate. It is one of the most damaging products, in my personal opinion, that has ever hit the shelf that very few people know about. So, when you peel back the layers on there or on that, just because it's lawful doesn't mean it's legitimate. So, maybe apply that to your own life as well, where you can peel back some of the layers and take a look at what's really going on out there. What is your money controlling, or what portion of your money do you have control of? What percentage of interest are you paying, but what rate of interest are you paying in your life?
Volume.
Yes, the volume of interest. Peel back the onion a little bit and just look at it with a critical eye. I think you'll be surprised to see what you find. I know I was.
Yeah, I'm working on some of these illustrative charts now, Jared, to show people, because when you see a picture of something, you're like, that can't be true. It is true. It is painfully true. Nelson, and you remember this. What did he say? He goes, you can't solve the problem if you don't know you can't solve for the solution until you know what the problem is.
That's right.
And
you
most
gotta be
people
able to first see the problem in order to see the solution.
And no one is seeing the problem. They are just going along because that's how they always did it. That's the way we've been instructed to do it by those who are handling our money when we should be handling our money.
That's right.
We're far better stewards of it than I think we can say that pretty conclusively if you look at all that's going on in the world right now. I think we do a better job individually.
I mean, it takes a really epic meltdown before folks really start being able to even look at that. When they're just getting their couple of percent a year and everything's climbing, I think they're just willing to keep going with it. Obviously they want more. As long as it doesn't tank, happy. Don't want to do all the extra work, don't want to manage it. But I don't think you can get any simpler than these products. It does take some education. You got to understand what powerful tool you have at your disposal, but it's not hard. It's not complex, not by any means. So it just takes a critical thinker. It takes someone to be willing to think outside the box.
Absolutely right. I mean, in short, the numbers are not going to work.
Sure.
But there is a solution, and the solution is you take control of your own finances, and you take control of this through infinite banking, and it works. The bottom line is everyone is motivated by their own self-interest.
Sure.
And nothing
as we
has
should be.
changed. Yeah.
As we should be. I mean, our goal is to take care of ourselves and our family first. And then after that, we get into our extended family, and then we get into the community. Like the fact that we have to turn over 35% to the government and then let them distribute it, that is the furthest thing from Austrian economics that you could ever find. Like it doesn't mean we're not grateful of the system, but goodness gracious, it's just crazy to me.
It's a terrible allocation of resources. Our resources are precious; they're finite, and they should be respected. And they're not. They're taking our money and they're spending it on all kinds of stuff. Oh my gosh. Yep. Don't even need to get into that. But I would prefer to have my own money. And if the government says, look, you have to spend this 35% because otherwise we're going to take it from you, fine. I will find some outstanding charities that do great work for human beings and make the world a better place. Sure. And I think I could do a lot better job than they can in Washington.
Just that alone would create some competition for them to earn your funds that you would give. And that competition alone would invisibly, take care of some bad actors.
Exactly right. Well, this is good stuff.
Another great episode. Appreciate you taking the time, John. Any closing thoughts?
No, I look forward. Maybe we could talk about you and I should sit down and talk about what we want to do on the next podcast. I was thinking about money, just talking about money and how money works for people. and you and I can bat that one around or come up with something different. And anybody out there, if you've got a specific topic as it pertains to economics, Austrian economics, or infinite banking, we would love to hear from you.
I completely agree. Would love to hear from anyone listening on, maybe a couple of questions. If we build up a little bank, we could build up some questions and knock out 5, 6, 7 questions in an episode. I think that's a great idea.
Well, I do too. I think we should do that. So, well, all right. It's Sunday evening. It's been a great day. And Jared, I so appreciate you with your busy schedule, getting together and keeping us on track to get these podcasts out on the air to educate people.
It's my pleasure. Great to be with you, John. We'll talk to you soon.
Great to be with you too, Jared. Thank you.
Take care.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Creating Tailwinds podcast with your hosts, John and Jared. As always, we welcome your questions and critiques. You can reach us through the Contact Us tab at flightpathfinancial.com. Remember, it's all about how you think. As Nelson Nash has said about infinite banking, give it your close attention, and it can make a radical improvement in your financial future.